eating, I would like to mention that I had the honour to read a message received from Buckingham Palace on this occasion of our luncheon for the Queen's official birthday. I have been asked to thank you and the members of the Australian Monarchist League for your kind message of loyal greetings sent on the occasion of the Queen's birthday. Her Majesty was interested to learn that you will be holding a luncheon. The Queen appreciates your continued support and in return sends her warm good wishes to all those who will be present for a most memorable and enjoyable afternoon. You will doubtless be interested to learn that we wrote to the Queen's greatest champion, His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh, on the occasion of his 90th birthday. His Royal Highness jotted this note in acknowledgement. Your message of good wishes for my birthday is very much appreciated. Signed, Philip. Ladies and gentlemen, the Australian Monarchist League is not a political organisation. We stand for the sole purpose of protecting our Constitution and our monarchy. However, when you have a politician like Tony Abbott, who has never wavered in his support for the Crown, we as an organisation will always support him. This is particularly so at this time. Indeed, not since 1975 has this country been in such a terrible situation. The government is lurching from crisis to crisis with nothing positive being achieved, other than wasting billions of taxpayers' dollars and entering into imprudent and extravagant contracts. We have a Prime Minister who pays as little attention to the well-being of the overtaxed and overburdened people as she seems to do to her conspicuous hairstyle. With all due respect to anyone in this room, did not Jeeves of Wodehouse fame say, "Red hair, sir, in my opinion, is dangerous." But there is a solution, and that solution lies with this man here. And the sooner he becomes Prime Minister, the better it will be for this country, and the better it will be for our Constitution and for our monarchical position. A couple of years ago, Tony Abbott told us that politicians weren't like most people, that they had differing priorities. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if there is one thing that is clear, it is that Tony Abbott is certainly not like most people, and certainly not like most politicians today. He is a fighter, a person who doesn't change his opinion to suit the morning's newspapers, but one who actually stands up and fights for that in which he believes. From the moment of his surprise election to the leadership, he took the coalition from the doldrums of defeat to the brink of victory, snatched only from him by perfidious independents who spurn the wishes of even those that elected them. With the Labour government in such a state of disarray, and riding roughshod over the voice of the people, a voice they refuse to allow to be heard, Is it not time for Cromwell's words of 1653 to be again repeated, this time to Julia Gillard? You have been sat too long here for any good you have been doing. Depart, I say, and let us have done with it. In the name of God, go. Ladies and gentlemen, the time has surely come for an election to be held to bring stability and security to the governance of this country. I welcome our fellow monarchists, the person who should rightfully be Prime Minister, to speak to us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Abbott.
Philip, rarely have I had such an enthusiastic introduction. And I wish that there were more non-political speeches such as yours. But Philip, I do want to thank you very much for the opportunity to address this lunch. I do want to thank all of you, ladies and gentlemen, for your support for a great institution. And I wish to thank you particularly for the warmth of your welcome to me today. I should acknowledge, first and foremost, my distinguished parliamentary friends and colleagues, David Clark and Fred Nile. Fred and David and I all the three of us go back a very long way indeed. My first meeting with Fred Nile took place back in 1976, I think it was, when I was a first-year student, a Conservative activist at Sydney University, and Fred in those days was one of the very new members of the New South Wales Parliament, but even then, standing up, as he has ever since, for what we might describe as God, Queen and country. And of course, at about the same time, I met David Clark, then merely an activist inside the Liberal Party, but someone who has worked assiduously inside the Liberal Party, and thanks to David, the Liberal Party is, in my judgment, a much more representative party than it has always been in the past. And I want to thank David for the good work he's done inside our party and inside our community to ensure that the Conservative voice of Australia is appropriately heard, not just in the community but also in the political parties of our country. Philip, look, as you so appropriately said, the Monarchist League is not a political organisation, but it is prepared to support politicians who stand up for the values of the League. And it is a pity, let me say, that there are not more Labor members of Parliament who stand up for the Crown in our Constitution. I should say at this gathering that there is at least one, though, the young Treasurer of South Australia is in fact a monarchist, and I think it's important not to despair of the Labor Party. It's a party which obviously I am opposed to in the Parliament, but in the end we need two responsible political parties in this country, and it's important that good people maintain a dialogue even with political parties that they don't agree with. It's important that the great institutions of our country receive at least a measure of support from both sides of the parliamentary divide. And so while I'm delighted to have the enthusiastic support of the Monarchist League today, and I trust in the future, I do think it's important for you and for our country that we do everything that we can to re-evangelise for the Crown throughout our country, and not just with those who currently agree with us. This is a dinner to mark the 85th birthday of Her Majesty the Queen. The fact that we are marking the birthday of our Sovereign, the fact that our Sovereign has been on the throne and an important part of our history and our traditions for so long, is in fact one of the strongest arguments for the Crown. If we want stability and continuity in our public life, there is no better way of securing that than through a monarchical system of government. Because through all the ups and downs of politics, through all the ins and outs of political fortune, the Crown is there as a constant in our national life, as a focus of unity and loyalty above the party fray. And it's very important that we don't forget that. I think that is something that we should be particularly conscious of on this day when we come together to acknowledge the monarch's 85th birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, there was a time when support for the monarchy was taken for granted in this country. It was just assumed that everyone who was someone supported the monarchy. It was in the marrow of our bones as Australians that we supported the monarchy. These days, I regret to say, almost the opposite is the case. It is the exception rather than the rule for people in public life to stand up and avow support for the Crown. And yet, even though supporters of the Crown are much rarer than they were, I am confident that the Crown will be with us for many a long year, many a successful decade, perhaps several centuries at least to come, because it is a splendid institution which has uplifted and ennobled all the countries with which it has been associated. The arguments for a republic are easy arguments, easy but empty. Glib phrases like a resident for president have a certain superficial appeal, but no lasting, nourishing value. On the other hand, the arguments for the monarchy are difficult arguments to make. Sometimes they're not even arguments. They're more the reasons of the heart, the deep instincts and attachments which good people have. As Pascal said, the heart has reasons that reasons cannot know. And it's the heart which in the end provides the deep well springs of support for the monarchy in a country such as Australia. I believe that the Crown in this country is as Australian as our language. And the Crown is not foreign just because it originated in another country. No more is the Crown foreign because it originated in another country than our language is foreign because we have inherited it from another country. In the end, it is the history of the Crown in Australia. It is the role that the Crown serves in our country that is the best argument for its continuation in this country. The Crown came ashore with the First Fleet. The Crown has been with us every step of our national existence. When the sealers and the whalers set off from Sydney Cove, they did so under the Crown. When the pastoralists pushed out beyond the Blue Mountains, they did so under the Crown. When the gold diggers transformed the economy of this country, they did so under the Crown. We sent troops to South Africa under the Crown. We sent troops to Gallipoli under the Crown. The first AIF was the fulcrum on which the whole fate of World War I hinged, under the Crown, as part of the British armies. Every step of our national journey has been made under the Crown, and we have changed and evolved under the Crown, and so has the Crown changed and evolved with us. When the first settlers came ashore not far from here, it was George III they toasted. He was the King of England. Today we toast Elizabeth II, but we toast her as Queen of Australia.